I don't know why, guys, but I have vertigo today.
Oh,
I've had vertigo twice in my life, and today is one of them. It's really, everything's kind of swimmy.
drink a
Better than
bunch.
it was earlier, but it's still, every time I go down, I was just like, whoa.
Are you hydrated?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I get it a lot, and I drink a ton of water, and then it goes away mostly.
Well, I'll try. I'll drink some more water and see if it happens. But anyway, let's pick things up from where we left it yesterday. So what I was saying, and again, this is just me. You can do it your own way. If we look at the 24, it's got four sections. And I tend to think of the first section as an introduction. All right. The second section, if you do it correctly, is pretty intense. It's pretty martial, right? So, and so on until you get to here. Then starts the third section. The third section has a little noise in it, but it's actually pretty quiet. So I kind of think of that as the rest phase. So you've got an introduction, you've got real intensity, then you've got a rest, and then the final fourth section to me seems like the shortest section, but it's also pretty intense. In fact, maybe it's more sharply intense than any other section. So that's kind of the spectacular ending. That's kind of the way I structure doing the form. And my feelings follow that kind of uh, structure that I've just sketched out. You can do it a different way, absolutely. But when you do it, you should have some idea of what it is you're doing. When you're doing the first section, what are you going to do? How is the second section the same? Is it different? And for each subsequent section. All right. Personally, I think, based on what I've done and what I've seen, that that analysis that I just gave you is pretty close to the way, say, for instance, Grandmaster Fung thought about it. But it doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You can do it any way you want. Um, there's something else that you should factor in too. And in a way, this gets a little obscured with something like um, Stevie Ray Vaughan's performance on the guitar. That was so big and so loud and so interactive with the community that was watching him that it kind of runs roughshod over some of what we do, which is very quiet. And that is the people who really make some magic happen with Tai Chi. It's not, to my mind, it's not through the loudness. It's through the stillness within the movement itself. Are you moving? Yes, you never stop moving. But if you can somehow capture that quietness or that stillness, that's to me when somebody really stands out. So we've watched. Remember the lady in gold, the tall Chinese lady in gold. Oh, it was a beautiful performance. Um, but it's young. It's a young person doing it, and I didn't feel that magical silence with her. I was watching her for her athletic prowess. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not like one's better than the other. But to me, the real magical stuff is that sense of quietness that happens. You remember the Japanese guy that we watched. Now he had in spades that sense of silence. And we're not going to watch him today. Maybe we'll watch the first section of his form next week. But he has, he's a Zen master. He's working on silence. He's working on a quiet mind and a quiet body. And to be able to do complex movement, some of which has a real martial arts background, and still you feel like the person doing it is in this space where he's inside, he's really quiet. He's not doing this movement to impress you. He's doing the movement for himself. And there's a real silence inside what he does. And it's absolutely magical. Which just reminds me of that poem. I think I quoted it a couple of weeks ago. The stillness in stillness is not the real stillness. Only when there's stillness in movement will the spiritual rhythm appear that pervades heaven and earth. That's a spiritual poem. So that guy I'm talking about, that Japanese Zen master, was able to. When I say magic, I'm talking about the spiritual rhythm that pervades heaven and earth. This is the way heaven and earth works, through this rhythm. And you're trying to, you're in your Tai Chi career, you should be looking for that. And to the extent that you find it, then you express that in what you're doing. So you're not being real martial to impress other people. Back in 2001, Grandmaster Fung came to the United States, and he went all around the United States and did a series of workshops. And the first workshop he did was with our group of people, as well as guests. So there were probably about 200 people there. At Pema Aso Ling, which is a Buddhist retreat center up above Santa Cruz. And of course, you had all kinds of people there, good, bad, and indifferent. And a lot of the young men, not in Master Zhang's group, because he beat this out of us, but from other groups, were show-offs. One of the ways they show off was a kind of hyper shaky power in their form. Shaky power is a symptom, an expression of doing something correctly. But what they would do is grab hold of the symptom and try to exaggerate the symptom as a way of proving that how tough they were, right? Which of course is completely stupid. It makes you look like an idiot. So shaky power, watch my fist. Could you see the little shake in there, right? Or it's a snap and there's a vibration that happens, right? That's the shaky power. It's not something you do on purpose. It's just something that happens. Somebody gave me this bell once, right? It's shaking. But it's not shaking because it's trying to impress somebody. It's just shaking because that's what it does, all right?
Malcolm, I think like that's when it resonates, right? Like literally.
Yeah.
So like, when you're able to reach that accuracy where things resonate, then it happens. But I mean,
Yes,
you can't like force your way into things resonate.
that's exactly right, Rand. And yet, all these young guys were jumping on shaky power, like, and then they would do this. It's like you look like an idiot. So at the beginning of the second day, I think there were 4 days there. At the beginning of the second day, Grandmaster Feng, we were all gathered going to do some form, and he said, all in Chinese, and this got translated, I don't want to see any shaky power. No shaky power. He didn't point to anybody. He was just saying, no shaky power. This is bullshit. If you can really do this, shaky power will happen, but I don't want to see it. I don't want to see you faking it, is basically what he was saying, right? So there's lots of fake Tai Chi out there, is the point of this. There is a lot. I would say there's a vast majority of the Tai Chi out there is fake Tai Chi. Another form of fake Tai Chi is just doing the outer motion without any understanding of what's going on inside. There's no inside. It's just the outside. If you've got an idea of the Xin Yi and you've got some idea of the Neigong, then you just practice. And your performance is just you practicing. You're not trying to show out for anybody. Anyway, today, let's work on the first section of the form. So we're just going to do the first 6 moves. I'm going to lead the first one. Susan, you can lead the second one. And Rand, you can lead the third one. Let's take our time. And don't worry about this even telling a story. Just watch yourself and see what story your body is trying to make of this first section. Because as you go through the first 6 moves, they're not all going to be the same. Your mood is going to change. Your color is going to change. So just watch and see what happens. So this morning, Annie and I were talking during the earlier break, not this last one. The atmosphere is weird. It's just weird. I don't know what it is. It feels really heavy. And both of us woke up with sort of a little vertigo and you know, something going on. But that's the color I'm in this morning. I'm not all super bright and chipper. It's much more subdued. So whether I like it or whether I don't like it doesn't matter. That's what's going to get expressed. So it's better just to realize, okay, that's what's going on. So when you feel like that, when your head feels a little foggy and you're a little depressed by global news and everything else that's going on in the world, how do you do something joyful like Tai Chi? Well, the first class we did was Huinyan Qigong. We compared notes, Annie and I compared notes afterward, and we both had the same experience. The first half hour was painful. It was just plain painful. I had a little vertigo. Annie said her joints all were achy. You're just going, you know, what's going on? Why is today like today? It's like, you ever wake up with one of those days when the sky is really gray and heavy, and it just seems like everything's sort of pressing down. It's kind of one of those days. So the first half hour was, well, we got to do this. We got students here, et cetera, et cetera. But the second half hour was redemption. It didn't make the skies clear. It didn't improve global news. It didn't completely get rid of my vertigo. But at least it made you feel a little human by the end of the hour session. You felt a little human again. And one of the things that I've learned, you guys know I teach every day. Every day. So one of the things you learn doing that is some days you're really on. Most days it's kind of in between. And there's some days when you're really not on. You can't make decisions, at least for me, I can't make decisions at the extremes. I shouldn't make decisions at the extremes. Because if you're all bubbly up or you're all that down, those are bad times to make decisions. You're not clear. So when I was doing, now guys, I'm just thinking out loud here. When I was just doing that form, that's what was going to get expressed, whether I wanted to do it or not. My body does not feel athletic and outgoing right now. It just doesn't. And so it was very slow. It was very slow. Slow is not bad. At least I don't think it's bad. All right? To me, when I do the form, when I'm doing this is, to me, I'm practicing pump. Lu. I'm pulling it here. My energy's coming forward. Pull. Sink it down. When I'm in a funky mood, that's what I pay attention to. Not my funky mood, not world news, not the fact that the sky is gray and it's starting to rain. I'm just paying attention to what's going on with these energies. And it's nice and, why is it so slow? So I can pay attention to it. I could think about this from the martial point of view, but I'm not doing that either. I'm just thinking about the energy in my, I'm feeling the energy in my body. Come up, pull in, press down, move out. When the energy goes out, something going back. I don't know whether that makes it good to watch or not, but that's what I'm doing. All right. Okay. Susan, why don't you lead us in 1, 2, and just go from where you're at.
Okay.
Okay. You guys may remember me telling you that Master Zhang used to say, um, he started this in the form of a question. He asked us, do you know to the class how I judge your Tai Chi when you do your Tai Chi. And we all said, no, of course we don't know, but we'd like to know. And he said, I watch you. I mean, this is all getting translated. I watch you. If you make my body feel good, that's good Tai Chi. If you make my body squirm a little bit, a little uncomfortable, then maybe something needs to be a little work on it, right? So watching Susan, I felt very comfortable. That was nice Tai Chi. Was it technically perfect? No. But that doesn't mean it's not good Tai Chi. Because the whole problem with technique is it never stops. No matter how good you get, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be more to learn. So it's not a question of being technically perfect. It's a question of relaxing and being comfortable with what you're doing and letting that kind of internal stillness percolate out through the pores. And there's a kind, even though you're moving, there's a kind of quietness around there. And it's that quietness, it's that relaxation that makes us, when we watch, feel, oh, okay, it makes me feel relaxed, it makes me feel good. Okay, a couple of, as far as technique goes, a couple of thoughts. One, watch this. Watch this hand here. So it's this loop here that I want to get at. First, right, you step out and all the way up. Not like this, but relax. And then point your fingers inward and go under the dantian. It's not your arm doing this. It's this doing this. All right, watch the white dot. Under, I'm going to put this hand behind my back. Under, and then as your hand turns, it's like your wrist gets sewn to your belly, right? Under the dantian, over the dantian, and then it pushes out and down and under. This is actually a china. You could, if you were doing it with your hand, it would look like this. But you can't do it with your hand. You should have leverage, or you shouldn't even try it. Nevertheless, it's your body that has to do it. So although I'm going like this, it's really my body that's doing it. And it's actually a pretty big circle. Well, it's going to go all the way, almost from my crotch, almost up to my solar plexus. You have to do this part a little more quickly because you have to get in position. This is positioning. This is actually doing it. Somebody's bending your hand back and you spin around and get him. For instance. Second thing, again, watch the left hand. Weld it it to your side, from your elbow to your shoulder, weld into the ribs. Now watch. Watch this hand. Watch the left hand. I've got his wrist, and I'm coming behind at the elbow. And that's a different movement, right? Let me do it from this direction here. All right, watch the left. Not out here. All right. 16 inches. Again, it's not the arms doing it. It's this. Yeah. This is creating the wave. These guys are just the surfers. Clear? Good. All right, Ran.
Okay.
Okay, good. Personally, I also liked what Rand was doing. I felt a sense of, excuse me, I keep using the word stillness or silence, but another way of saying it is there's some space in there. It's some spaciousness. So it doesn't all feel cramped up. No, it's more relaxed and more open. Um, more relaxed, more open. Let me point out a couple of things that you can play with a little bit. In the the old first movement is just this. That's it. Actually, in old Chen style, it's this. That's it. That's the first move. Right? I changed the goalposts on that because I wanted to include some stuff in the second stuff, right? So think about this part of the movement. This is actually the second move. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is this part here. Right here. This, this, this. You're moving your body, your body, your body. And yet the hands are really big. So, as usual, you can get hypnotized by the hands. Pay attention to the body. And when you are doing this movement, some of this is Li movement, is front to back movement. But a lot of it is Shu movement. It's side to side. All right? Side to side to side, right? When you move side to side, you have to take into account the width of your body. So the arms, the hands, cannot move at the same time. Because if I'm moving energy from, say, one hand to the other hand, it's going to have to go through my shoulders. It's going to have to go through the width of my body. And I have to account for that. There's going to be a beat in there. So when you do this movement, don't think both hands are going together, both hands are coming back, both hands, until they separate, are going out. That's not what's going on. What's going on is this hand is moving, and then that hand is moving, then this hand is moving, then that hand is moving. In other words, the right and left side of the body are coordinated, but they're not glued together. They're coordinated, but they're each working on their own beat. Another way to think about this is not think about your hands, but think about your shoulders, right? It's your left shoulder that's moving, and then your right shoulder, and now your right shoulder, and then your left shoulder, and now your left shoulder, and then your right shoulder. So it's more articulate than just moving both shoulders at the same time and both shoulders back. Now that's not it. It's not both shoulders, both shoulders, both shoulders. It's one shoulder, second shoulder, one shoulder, second shoulder, one shoulder, second shoulder. If you do that, what happens is you get to pay more attention to the center. Because this movement is about balance. How do I do these things and still keep balanced? And keep balanced and be strong, because you're doing, first you're stopping this guy, right? And then you're brushing here, and then you're grabbing some guy, and you're moving him back, and then you're doing, wow, you're really doing some real work. You can't do that if your body mechanics are wrong. What you need is a strong center by making each of the shoulders, elbows, wrists, hands articulate and free floating. That allows the center to be the pivot. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, that means the strong part has to stay in the center because the sides are moving. Does this make sense? Okay. Now, if you do it right, it sort of looks like it's all happening at the same time, but it's not. Right? And you'll notice the feeling inside when you do that. It's there is a natural beat in there, and when you become aware of that beat and follow the beat, suddenly that move becomes much more fun and much more articulate and much better balanced and centered. Right? There was something else I was going to comment on. Yeah, Kevin.
Until you can unlock your quad, you're going to have a difficulty doing that move.
Yes, that's true. That's
So
a
then,
good point.
if you can't do that, then your shoulders move together and your hips move together.
This is something we were talking about in the beginning class because one of our students in the beginning class always does this. Watch, and it's in every move, but I'll show it. I'll show it up in this one. You cannot have a shallow step. Not in this move and not in the other moves. You need to have a wide open step. That's a horse stance. That opens your pelvis. So your hip joints are not out here, they're in here. And they're right above your shoulder joints, or right below your shoulder joints rather, right? So this is a rectangle. And if this part of the rectangle is squished, it's called being closed, then this is not going to work right. This is just not going to work right. You're all bound up. Instead, you got to open your pelvis, open your knees, right? Not this way, but this way, and that opens your pelvis. And when your pelvis is open, oh, now suddenly I can move. All right? So yes, Kevin, you're exactly right. When you step out for this move, step back and then out. And now you have some distance between your heels. And that lets your pelvis stay open. And that's true for every move. So what I told them is, for the next, since they've got bad habits, they have Maobing, all right, of having too narrow a stance. For the next 2 weeks, whenever you practice, and I know you practice an hour every day, all right, when you practice, you think about your stance. Don't worry about anything else. Just think about your stance and check your stance. Every time you make a change, watch. Check. Oh, this is too narrow. Yeah, okay, well, what can I do about that? All right. Oh, I can step out a little. Oh, no, that's okay. And we're working in high horse stances, but it still should be a horse stance. The pelvis still should be open. All right, there was something else I was gonna. Oh, this one's really tricky. There's a fly in here. Right here. Not the hand, it's the arm. this hand goes out because I'm coming out on this leg. That's going to turn my daimai. Right? This hand goes back because my daimai is turning. Watch this. Watch. It's the same thing. Imagine you're standing in a pool of warm water, right? Up to your dantian, maybe just a little higher than your dantian. And you can make currents in the water, right? What is the current you're making? How are you stirring the water to make a current? Watch. It comes right into your dantian. It's going to go all the way through your body, and then it's going to come out and go around and go back in your dantian. So you're making two circles right through your own body, right? Into your dantian, through to your back, middle of your back, your spine, and then it comes out, and your arms just float on it, and then you bring it back in, and it floats, and you bring it back in, and it floats. You can do that very gently with sort of both, which is, or you can make it a little rougher, right? I'm going to exaggerate this one. I could exaggerate the other one, right? But in fact, right? Watch this elbow. Sorry, my tape is a mess. As you know, a lot of these things are not one-on-one. They're just possibilities that you set up. Your elbow goes up and pulls back, goes up and pulls back, goes up and pulls back. Now I've got him by the wrist. I'm up above his elbow. I'm going to use this part of my arm above his elbow. Brush the chest. Now somebody's put their hands on your chest. They put their hands on your chest. Come up to meet them. All right? And then drop from here into the Ming Mun, back in the lower lumbar area. Chest, lumbar, chest, lumbar. Hold the ball. Use that hip. Hold on a minute. Let me see if Annie's available. It's not this. This. This move includes brushing the chest, right? So suppose Annie's a bad guy and she comes up and puts her hands there. Now I'm not going to do it. I'll just demonstrate it. There's many different ways to do this, but this move in particular uses the back of the hands. You come in a way you sort of ignore her. It's not out here, all right? That you can do, but this is in here. I'm going to bring her. I'm going to bring her wrists into my body, and then I'm going to sink. Master Jean could tie you up just by sinking and forcing your wrists back on themselves, all right? But you drop, and then your whole weight and your chi just drops, right? Now, when you do that, I did that wrong because my head came down at the same time, right? This is wrong. The head's got to go up, right? So I think you guys have all heard this story before.
Yes, I've told it many times.
But I like this story, so I'm going to have her tell it again. I was, I think, demonstrating in class
Yes, we
or
were
something.
having a big workshop.
And I actually did it to her by accident. So you tell the story. What was it like?
It was like getting an electric current sent through my body. And I wasn't expecting it. So my first response was to get mad.
The first response was going to be to hit me.
Yes, I was thinking I might have to hit him. And then my rational mind took over and went, wait a minute, are you actually in pain? And then I went, no, it doesn't actually hurt. But it was very powerful, and it went in the front and came out the back. That was my memory, was that it really, I could feel it coming out the back. It went straight through my body and out the back. And it was like an electric current went through me. And it was powerful and disturbing, but you couldn't say it was painful. And there was no lasting discomfort. There was a kind of
reverberation.
It's a reverberation, like you're a bell and someone has struck the bell, and there's still this reverberation for a while. But yeah. And I was really proud of myself that I didn't hit you.
I was really proud of you too for not hitting me. Yes, as soon as I did it, I realized, oh shit, I didn't mean to really do it. I actually did. And you know, that's actually the best way to do it. You can't.
It has to be spontaneous.
It has to be spontaneous. And when it happens, and that actually happened really, really well. I knew exactly what had happened. It's like you can see into somebody. They're transparent, like they're made of glass or something. And I could see what the energy had done. I could see her shock, and I knew I was really close to getting hit and having her get mad at me. But we were in a social situation, so
So,
she pulled
I
back,
reined myself in.
reined herself in, and she checked herself, and fortunately there was no damage. But when Master Zhang or Master Feng would they would not do that to you unless they were trying to demonstrate that. Sorry, there's a fly in here that's bugging me. When they would, that's what real Fajin is. It's like getting electrocuted,
Yeah.
and you cannot believe it until somebody does it to you, and then it's like, oh, okay,
That was real.
that was real. That was actually really something.
There was the time before, and then there's the
And
time
then there's a
after.
time after.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, now you know something about it that you didn't know before.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
somebody could describe it to you,
Yeah.
but that's one thing. Actually experiencing
I
it is
actually
something
had
else.
the experience of an energetic force moving through my body.
Yeah. And it's like that.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for not
you're
hitting me
welcome, but
though.
don't do it again.
Don't do it again.
All right.
Okay, honey, thanks.
Well,
All right, so this move. Left elbow. Bouncy. All right, it's like you're doing the hula. Throw. Brush your chest. Open. 2 circles. Grab the ball and push it straight down. Straight down. Boom. All right, that'll keep you busy for the rest of the week. All right, guys. Have yourselves a good day. We'll see you next Saturday. Ciao.